It was a cold evening in October when Alina first heard him. The wind had just begun to whisper against the windows of her family's old countryside mansion, an eerie, sprawling place they called the Hollow Hill Estate. Her parents had recently passed away in a car accident, and the estate, with all its creaking floors and dust-laced halls, was now hers. Alina had returned not for the inheritance, but for memories she no longer trusted. The place called to her in dreams, each night more vivid than the last. She would wake breathless, feeling a warmth behind her, as if someone had been watching her sleep. She was unpacking a box in the attic when it happened. "You're finally back." She dropped the photo frame in her hands. The voice was deep, rich, achingly familiar, and it didn't come from within the room. It seemed to echo from the walls themselves. "Who said that?" she called out, her voice trembling. No answer. She backed away, heart pounding, but no one was there. Just the attic's dust-heavy silence and the soft groan of the wood beneath her feet. Alina didn't sleep that night. Her room felt too still, like the walls themselves were holding their breath. The next morning, the voice returned. "You don't remember me, do you?" This time, she was in the library, a place no one had touched for decades. She could feel it again, his presence, like warmth wrapped in shadow. It wasn't threatening. It felt sad. "Who are you?" she whispered. "Once I was someone you loved." A shiver danced down her spine. "This isn't real. Maybe not to the world, but to your soul. It always was." She dropped the book in her hand, not out of fear but confusion. Why did that voice make her chest tighten? Why did it sound like a memory long forgotten? That night, she dreamed. She stood in a garden drowned in moonlight. The roses were black, yet alive, their petals soaked with something darker than dew. A man stood with his back to her. She couldn't see his face. "Turn around," she called. He didn't, but she knew. She knew she loved him. When she awoke, her pillow was damp with tears. The third night, she spoke to him. "Why are you here?" "Because I waited." "For what?" "For you to remember." She swallowed hard. "Remember what?" "Our love, and the curse that tore us apart." Alina wanted to laugh, but her chest hurt too much. The ache was real, like a forgotten melody pressing against her ribs. "Who were you?" "Someone who loved you more than life." As days passed, the voice became more frequent, and Alina, despite her fear, grew used to it. She began to speak aloud, knowing he was always listening. At night, she'd whisper stories to the dark, and sometimes he'd whisper back, telling her tales of dreams, of stars, of a garden that bloomed only for them. She no longer questioned her sanity. She began to fall in love with a voice. One morning, she found something strange in the garden behind the estate. A rose, jet black, exactly like the ones in her dreams. She bent to touch it, and a whisper floated to her ears. "I planted this for you, long before you returned." She gasped. "It can't be. I was here, even when you weren't." "Why me?" "Because only your soul could free me." "From what?" "From the silence, from the darkness." That night, she lit a single candle and sat by the mirror. Her heart trembled. "If you're real, if you ever loved me, show yourself." The flame flickered, and then he did. In the mirror behind her stood a man, tall, dressed in a century-old coat, hair dark as midnight, and eyes that glowed with sorrow. His reflection was clear, even though the room behind her was empty. Alina turned quickly. No one. But when she looked back into the mirror, he was still there, watching her. "My name was Elias," he said, "in another time, in another life." She stared at him, tears pricking her eyes. "What happened?" "They called me a monster. They thought our love was unnatural. They bound my soul to this house. And you, What about me? You were forced to forget. Your memories taken, so I could suffer alone. Alina shook her head. No, this isn't possible. He raised a hand in the reflection. But your heart remembers, doesn't it? She placed her hand on the mirror. So did he. Their fingers met, glass between them, but it felt like skin. I loved you then, she whispered. And I don't know why, but I love you now. He smiled, and in that moment the mirror cracked, just slightly, a fine line across the glass. I'm getting closer, he said. Days passed. The voice grew. The blue flame burned like judgment on the altar. Elias backed away, his face ghost white, as Alina's spirit rose higher from her lifeless body, glowing like moonlight filtered through sorrow. You thought you could bring me back to you, she said softly, sadly. But you never asked what I wanted. You loved me once. I still do, she said. And that truth hurt more than anything. Her love had survived his betrayal. That was what made it unbearable. But love without choice is not love, she continued. It's captivity. The room trembled again. Dust rained from the ceiling. The walls moaned as if the house itself had begun to awaken. Something ancient stirred beneath the foundations. Elias, she said, you awakened something dark inside yourself, thinking it was love, but it wasn't. And now you've tied yourself to this place forever. No, he pleaded. You can forgive me. I know you can. I already have, she whispered. But forgiveness doesn't unbind a curse born of selfishness. With a flick of her spectral hand, the altar turned to dust. The chains of shadow that clung to Elias's ankles, ones he never saw until now, snapped tight, rooting him to the floor. He screamed, but the scream didn't echo this time. No one was listening anymore. 3 days later, rain-soaked Hollow Hill Estate. Authorities found Alina's body lying in the basement, pale but peaceful, as if she had simply gone to sleep. The cause of death? Unexplained cardiac arrest. Elias was never found, but in the walls. Something watched. 2 months later, a new family moved in, parents with a little girl named Clara, barely 8. They were warm people. Laughter returned to the halls, music played from a radio in the mornings, and the air grew less cold. But Clara saw something others didn't. A tall man in old clothes, standing at the end of the hallway at night. He never spoke. He only watched. In the in-between, Alina drifted through a realm of quiet. The pain of betrayal was behind her, but her soul still echoed with the memory of Elias's love and his fall. She often found herself in a dreamscape garden, the silver one from her visions, where roses of every shade bloomed. One day, while sitting near a pond of still, dark water, a voice came to her. May I sit with you? She turned. It was a stranger, but somehow she felt like she had always known him. His eyes held no desperation, no hunger, only calm. You're not like the others, she said. I have no reason to be. They sat in silence, watching the water. What was his name? The man asked gently. Elias. And he loved you? She nodded. Too much. In the wrong way. The man said nothing for a while. Then, when love turns into need, it becomes a ghost. But when love is patient, it becomes a guide. Alina looked at him. Who are you? A soul, like you, he said, wounded, but healing. Would you like to walk for a while? She smiled for the first time in a long while. Yes. And so, hand in hand, they walked into the silver woods. Back at the mansion, little Clara stopped eating. She said the man in the hallway was talking now. He says he's sorry, she whispered to her mother. About what, darling? He says he took something precious, and now he's empty. The mother kissed her head, assuming it was all imagination. But that night, she too saw the man. He stood in the mirror behind her, weeping without sound, and then he was gone. 1 year later, Hollow Hill Estate was abandoned again. The family had left in the middle of the night, saying only, "It's not the house, it's the feeling." Vines grew over the windows, birds no longer nested near the roof. But inside the garden, deep in the soil, a new flower bloomed. Not a black rose, not a cursed one. It was white with streaks of soft gold. And on quiet nights, two figures could be seen in the moonlight, one translucent and bright, the other shadowed and thin. One was watching, the other was healing. Final chapter, Echoes Never Die. Centuries passed. Time forgot the names Alina and Elias. The mansion crumbled to its bones. The garden became a wild forest. Only that single white flower continued to bloom every year, on the same night. Until one day, a young man stumbled upon the ruins, a writer searching for inspiration, drawn by something he didn't understand. He knelt by the flower and heard a whisper. Not all love stories end in forever, but the best ones echo across time. He looked up and swore he saw two people, one woman radiant like light, one man cloaked in sorrow, standing in the mist of dawn. They didn't speak. They didn't need to.